One of the things we're really cognizant of as part of the change program is what does it mean for communications professionals from diverse backgrounds, particularly ethnic minority backgrounds? The evidence suggests, obviously, they're disproportionately affected in restructuring programs. So Edna's doing the most amazing piece of work at the Confed and NHS providers, leading a big diversity task force, which we're going to be publishing in the near future. So Edna, just tell me your thoughts on, I guess, first of all, your concerns about the direction of travel, more positively what we can do about it, and give the people here a bit of a sort of heads up around the task force and where we're headed.
Thanks, Daniel. So first of all, I would just like to thank you and NHS Confed for your leadership in this space, because actually this is such an important area that I'm glad that we are starting to really hone in and actually take a look at some of the issues that we face within our comms and engagement teams. But not just comms and engagement. We know there is a lack of diversity in senior roles in particular across the NHS, across local government, in public sector. It's a real concern that we don't have representation at the senior level in particular. And that for me is concerning, because we have such diverse communities and we have some issues at the moment going on with community cohesion, etc. We've seen what's going on in Northern Ireland at the moment. We saw the race riots recently, and some of the ways that we engage, we communicate with our communities better, is having more representation in those services. So for me, this isn't just a nice to have. This isn't just around socially. This is the right thing to do. It's absolutely essential if we're going to be able to communicate and engage with our very diverse workforce and communities. So we've been doing this work now for about 9 months or so. And so thank you to all those people that have given their time to be part of the task force, so Ranjeet, Daniel and others. And I'm really proud of where we've got to, in the sense that we have, at this point in time, spoken to almost 450 people and got an insight and input from about 450 people. So we've run quite an extensive survey where we were collecting views of people from ethnic minority backgrounds from across all sectors, whether they work in the NHS or not, whether they've ever worked in the NHS. And we got about 320 odd people that gave their views, which was fantastic. It was the first time that we'd done a survey that was just focusing on people from those backgrounds. We also did a number of focus groups with people from BME backgrounds and also from comms professionals across the NHS. And a really good piece of the jigsaw was also, we spoke to a number of senior leaders that across the NHS to get some of their insights. We've got some fantastic insights that are coming through, which are pulling together to put into our final report. So I'm not going to give you too much away about what's in the report. But one of the things that was very concerning for me, was just the percentage of people from an ethnic minority background in communications in the NHS that didn't believe that they would still be in those roles within the next few years. So over a quarter of people felt that they weren't going to stay in NHS roles. And bearing in mind, this is before the recent restructuring and the cuts were announced. We had a number of people that felt like they'd had really poor experiences within the NHS. That was the reason why they were leaving. And in general, people seem to have a better experience, or our ethnic minorities communicators seem to have a better experience when they leave the NHS. So that's quite concerning for me, and particularly as an ethnic minority communicator that's left the NHS for similar reasons. We need to do something about that. And unfortunately, in a time of restructuring and cuts, people from ethnic minorities are disproportionately impacted. There is lots of statistics that show this. So therefore, people from ethnic minorities at the moment, our communicators, are feeling quite vulnerable. They feel like they're the ones that are going to go first. And I would say it's not just about if you are an ethnic minority, it's anyone who is a little bit different. So if you are someone who's neurodiverse, you are worried about having to go and interview for your job again against other people. If you are someone who is from a more of a working class background, you are concerned about interviewing for a job against people that are from maybe middle class backgrounds, who are the ones that are potentially going to be appointing people, because comms and engagement can be seen as quite an elitist profession. So I think we have some real concerns that if we don't really address some of these issues, we are going to end up with teams that do not reflect our communities and our workforce. And that's a real concern for me.
Yeah. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Edna. Ranjit, you're also on the task force. Yeah, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to Edna there. It's so important, isn't it? And you've done a great job. And so all credit to you for leading that piece of work. I think it's really important. I think this kind of connects our conversation up, doesn't it? Because if you lose good leaders, you're losing good role models from the profession. And people always need to aspire, look up and go, actually, I could be like that, or that's great. Wow, someone like Edna or Rory or Daniel's doing that, I could do that. So I think we need to be able to make sure that we really enhance and protect that strategic value that we bring. I think it's really important. I also just want to kind of talk a little bit about diversity in all its forms. So this isn't just about kind of ethnic minorities. It's also about people who are open. And Daniel done a great job of like facilitating this space. And most of my role models have been white backgrounds, middle class, but they've helped lift me up. And I think that's really important. And we've got to be able to help lift people up. It doesn't matter what kind of background you come from. That's just really important. And I think on diversity comes in all its forms. People who are from really underprivileged backgrounds. We've got to be able to like open the doors and create that pathway for people to step into this profession. I think it's really important. And then just for me and part of the task force, it is about where my focus ultimately is about that entry point. So those people who don't know anybody in comms and engagement, they haven't got an uncle or auntie or a parent or somebody that can give them work experience. How do we create that pathway? And that's through the communications apprenticeship scheme that we're creating. And that's really about the step in, the first step in, where they get mentored and the opportunity to have a role in comms engagement. I think for me, that's absolutely crucial because that creates that pathway. Obviously, we need to have more people of diversity in board level roles. But for me, I think it's about getting people that first kind of first route in.
We have not grown a pipeline of future leaders. And that's the concern, that every time there's a restructure, so the creation of ICBs, there was a lot of talk about how we were going to do things were going to be different and we were going to look to get lots of diversity in at these senior levels. It didn't happen. No. And that's partly because we haven't grown those people. We haven't got experienced people to be able to take some of those jobs. So, and when we did some of the surveying of people from ethnic minorities, one of the things that they talked about was not having those role models, not having those networks in order to support them to get into these types of role, but also not having the family sort of approval to take certain jobs. Because I know as an ethnic minority, African parents, they didn't want me to be, they wanted me to be a lawyer, doctor, something stable. They didn't understand comms and engagement. So they would never have encouraged me to go into that type of role. So again, I suppose that goes back to our branding issue as well about comms and engagement. Do we need to do better at actually being able to describe what it is and the role and the function and how important it is? But then equally, to a certain extent, you're probably right about it not being a stable role, a stable profession, because how many restructures have I been through in the NHS? So I think that there's a kind of an issue there as well.
Well, I think I've always felt, because when we talk about roles, we don't talk about behaviour change experts and all these excited people. We talk about, press people, or we talk about graphic designers, or we go down that specialist route. But I think there's a more compelling way to sell the profession, if you like.